from the time I've engaged with Kobe Bryant to the time of his unfortunate passing, um, I've never had one bad experience with Kobe Bryant. I mean, the last time I spoke with him was a week before his untimely passing of him and his daughter and those other people that were on that helicopter ride. Um, and he was cool then, he'll joke around. Oh man, you again, so it's like, I think he was misunderstood, and I think he was really coming into his own. I think
he was.
After he left basketball, I really believe he started to really come into his own and really be comfortable.
If you believe we can change the narrative, if you believe we can change our communities, if you believe we can change the outcomes, then we can change the world. I'm Rob Richardson. Welcome to Disruption Now. Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm your host and moderator, Rob Richardson. With me is Nick Hamilton. He is the founder and CEO of Nitecast Media, really redefining how media is viewed and should be viewed, working to really humanize athletes, humanize entertainers, specifically entertainers that are people of color, because it's easy for the media, and the media gets into this narrative where they dehumanize them, either make them greater than thou or some type of superhero or villain. There's usually no in between. They're superhero or villain, and they're quick to do either one. So I really appreciate the fact that Nick works that actually have a nuance that we're human beings, we bleed, and that's really been the center of his focus for his media company. So Nick, welcome, brother.
Hey man, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Quick note for the listeners: if you're listening to us on iTunes, Google Play, wherever, please give us a review. Please give us a like. It really helps us, and it helps us get discovered more. So we appreciate all the listeners that are there, that are listening to us here, listening to the sound of my voice. I will also say, if you're watching us, of course, on YouTube, please subscribe, please like. It helps us spread the word on all the disruption that we want to cause. We want to make sure it's getting out there more and more. And of course, you can sign up always on our website, disruptionnow.com. You can go there and learn about the latest events. You can participate behind the scenes if you want to become one of our members as well. And we have Disruption Now Summit, and that's coming up. And we're going to have P&G Ventures there. There's going to be a $2,500 pitch competition for any founder. And we're also going to be launching our new NFT platform. Lots of things. It's a free event. Of course, there's another tiered version, but we want to make sure it's accessible. So go there. We only have a certain amount of free tickets. It's only a couple hundred. So please sign up now while you have the opportunity. And now we'll just get a little bit back to the interview. So, hey, all right, Nick. So I want to just say you've had some really notable interviews. And that's kind of where I want to start. What is the first interview that really just sticks out in your mind? I know you've interviewed Matt Barnes, Candace Parker, Kobe Bryant, Stephen A. Smith. Let's start with the one that really just sticks out to you and tell us why.
Actually, there's a couple. It's not just one, because I've been fortunate enough to interview so many people across the 11 years that I've been doing this. And I would say definitely Candace Parker being one, because she's just such a phenomenal woman, along with being a great basketball player. And for her to be able to balance, motherhood along with the day-to-day responsibilities that are, pretty much upon her as a superstar of a league. And then doing a great job with television. I mean, I remember when she first started doing and becoming an analyst, and I'm like, she's going to be gold. Like, and you watch the maturation of her throughout the years, and you see the great job that she's doing there. Recently, she just had Candace Parker Day in Chicago with the mayor actually declaring that that's going to be Candace Parker Day on September 16th. So, I mean, just watching her mature from the time, I feel like we kind of grew in our careers respectively, because when I started, the LA Sparks were the first team that I was able to cover professionally back in 2010. And she had basically just arrived, obviously 2 years prior, and then watching her grow, going through the ups and downs, and then watching her experience, getting a championship and competing for another championship, and then being able to move on to the Chicago Sky. And, she's just a very down-to-earth person. So it was always great to just see the maturation of that. And obviously the late, great Kobe Bryant, being able to watch him from afar, but then also watching, being able to speak with him in the locker rooms at times, or being at various events where he was. And, again, I always say this, I don't know if he knew my name, but he definitely remembered my face.
Right.
And that's, for me, that's all I needed.
What sticks out when you think about Kobe? And I ask this question again about with Candace though. What
Um,
what specifically stands out with the time you interviewed him, or if it's not that, just what you just
to
your
me, I think
experience or your feelings about Kobe? What sticks
I
out?
think I think Kobe was misunderstood at times. I think a lot of
Okay.
times the media didn't take time out to really get to know him. Because I've never had a bad experience with Kobe.
Yeah.
I know some media members that early on in his career, they may not have had the greatest experiences with him, but from the time I've engaged with Kobe Bryant to the time of his unfortunate passing, I've never had one bad experience with Kobe Bryant. I mean, the last time I spoke with him was a week before his untimely passing of him and his daughter and those other people that were on that helicopter ride. And he was cool then, he'll joke around. Oh man, you again, So it's like, I think he was misunderstood, and I think he was really coming into his own. I think
He was.
after he left basketball, I really believe he started to really come into his own and really be comfortable in his own skin. That's not to say he wasn't comfortable before, because the man was really
just young. I
confident.
mean, he was young. Let's be clear, right? You're talking about someone that out of high school grew up completely in the limelight, and it's easy for people that have lived private lives to judge him. But
Right.
imagine if everything you ever did since you were 17 was put under a hot microscope, a microscope, and then a light your entire life. There's a lot of people that wouldn't stand up to that either. So it went to the point that I mentioned earlier, especially when it comes to Black people and athletes, it's one or the other. We make them, Superman, or they're villains, and it's they're quick to turn you into a villain. And we know that happened in the case with the rape allegation that was eventually thrown out. They were quick to make him a villain, very, very quick.
Well, the thing I love about Kobe Bryant was his resilience. And the thing about it, man, Kobe Bryant was cooler than a polar bear's toenails. I mean, that's just what he was. I mean, he was unapologetically him. Yeah. And we saw the maturation. I mean, LA adopted him as their native son, so to speak, even though he grew up in Philadelphia and before that in the country of Italy. Right. But he was LA's son. Like what he did in the communities across Los Angeles during the time he was playing for the Lakers, aside from winning championships and gold medals, it was just remarkable. And to see him come back full circle and then be an Oscar award winner, being a great father, coaching his daughter at the time. It was just
her moves were sick. She had his moves already.
That was Kobe. That was little Kobe. Say what you want. Like she would give you that work. Like you could tell she was gonna give you that work. And she was definitely, if she would have been able to get older and grow older, she would have definitely changed the landscape of the WNBA wholeheartedly. Everybody said that, from Diana Taurasi to many countless other WNBA players and coaches that saw her and witnessed her. They were like, Gigi was going to change the WNBA for sure. Yeah. And so it was just great, man. I feel very fortunate to be in Los Angeles, to be born and raised in LA, West Coast to the casket drops. But just to be in Los Angeles at a time where I was able to be exposed to the greats like a Kobe Bryant, or watching at the time back in the day, the USC Trojans be that team, or watching, the LA Kings get 2 Stanley Cups, a team that I grew up with as a kid, watching and wondering if we would ever win a championship with the LA Kings. So just being entrenched in those circles. And the same thing with Candace Parker. I think the thing with Candace Parker that stands out to me, to have a young lady that had so much on her shoulders. I mean, this is a young lady that came out of one of the most prestigious basketball programs when it comes to the University of Tennessee, and Pat Summitt, who's one of the greatest coaches of all time, God rest her soul. And to see that she came into the WNBA as the number 1 pick, she was the league MVP, she was the rookie of the year. She gets, pregnant with her daughter Layla the following year, has to sit out, and then come back in 2010, and then she's suffering through injuries through 2011.
And my understanding is they don't get maternity leave. They do now. They didn't get maternity leave then.
At that time, no. And so for her to be able to still do and go through some personal things that we all know she's gone through, I'm not going to bring those things up, but we all know if you read the papers, and then still be able to persevere and to be able to get a WNBA championship and then compete for another championship and just watching her growth and watching her develop as a leader. And then you see it now with the Chicago Sky, like she is the Chicago Sky. No disrespect to any of the other players, because there's some talented players around her, but she's the engine that runs that team. And what we saw that development from the time she was in Los Angeles to where she is now, and it was just great to see. So that's, to me, those are the two things that really stand out to me about not just Candace Parker, but the late great Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Matt Barnes, man, all the smoke, man. He's he got that he's got a funny podcast. He's a funny dude, man. He's very entertaining. Got a little drama, but it makes it interesting. So what is Matt Barnes like in person? Like, what is he? Is he just like he is on the podcast? Just like whatever, you could just roll up, take a from the kick it with you. What's he like?
Let me tell you something, man. Matt Barnes is one of the realest. He's real. He's realer than a $5 bill.
Yeah, that comes across. I would not say he's not. I would never accuse him of being inauthentic.
You know,
he's himself no way.
I mean, Matt has always shown me love, man. I mean, even when we launched this media company, man, he was gracious enough to even post, you know, the announcement on his story, man. He didn't have to do that at all, and I was just really grateful and thankful for him for that. And that shows you just how of a real dude he really is. But I've always been, thought Matt was a stand-up guy, even when he was playing with the Clippers. The times I interviewed him with the Clippers, and then later on, as you know, we continue to move along in life. Him and Steven Jackson, for that matter. I'm extremely proud of those two. I think they've come a long way. I think they've really changed the dynamic of the media game. And you watch two Black men and two, really much just two human beings, be able to engage and really be able to live their truths every week and every episode that you watch on All the Smoke. Yeah. And they give really great interviews. I mean,
they do. He's I know. I mean, the dude knows what he's doing. I mean, he's just entertaining as ever.
Yeah. So I mean, Matt Barnes. I mean, I have nothing but respect. If Matt Barnes can hit me up or call me or whatever, and whatever you need, bro, I'm there. You know, if I'm able to be there, I'm there. And that's just, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Matt Barnes.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been in this. So you how did you get into starting your own media company? Like, how did you get to this point?
Man, I kind of fell into this genre, I should say, rather, and when it comes to media, because I didn't know what I was going to do at a point in my life, because I had been I kind of been running from it, because coming from the backgrounds that we come from, the communities that we come from, we don't know exactly how to go about doing it. I mean, they tell you to go to school, but then after school, then what? Like, how do you maneuver yourself? How do you stand out?
That ain't enough no more either. You tell right. Go to school.
And this was back, again, I started out blogging when bloggers were like the antichrist.
Oh, yeah. You old internet. You're internet 1.0. Yeah.
Right. So this was back in like 08, 09, right? Like, I just started like messing around with it. And I went back to school. I got an internship at ESPN LA. Shout out to Beto Duran, who actually, connected me with the people up at ESPN LA at the time, because he was working here. And, connected with a lot of people who I still have a great relationship with to this day. And to me, I thought that was that set the precedence and that set the foundation. And from day one, I said, I don't want to compete with people that are on my level. I want to go steps ahead, because that's the only way I'm going to get better. Iron sharpen iron. And the only way you're going to get stronger is if you put more weight on. You can't get stronger working out the same weight. Right. And that's what I equated that to my journey. And so working with independent sites, like I've worked with, various companies. I've worked with NBCLA. I've worked with AP. I did a couple of things for AP. I've done with AXS.com. I've been able to get both sides, the independent side and the corporate side. So I learned from those experiences, and then the time where my contract had ran out because we couldn't agree to terms on a deal moving forward. So we just let the contract run out, and I was pretty much stuck at that point. And I said, okay, I never want to be in this position again. So that's what the light bulb came on, and that's what gave me the idea at that time to start my own media company. And I partnered with a colleague of mine at that time, and we had got together and we had formed a media company. Didn't really work out the way I intended it to work out. So I decided, since I'm going to do majority of the heavy lifting, I might as well do this myself.
Yeah. Let's pause on that. I want to have more conversations about that, because I think there is lessons in that. I've had that similar experience recently with the the NFT platform that I started, and I started off with the co-founder, and it just didn't work because it's like all of a sudden I found like we weren't equally yoked. Best way I could say it, it was like a 90-10 relationship, and there was an expectations of a 50-50 split. No, it don't work that way. Like,
Right.
talk to folks who are, because we have a lot who are founders. We have quite a few founders who listen to the broadcast.
Yeah.
What lessons would you give from that in assessing how to choose a co-founder and whether you should have a co-founder?
Just because you guys have two things in common, don't be so eager to jump in and rush into a partnership. That's the first thing I learned. Because you get very eager, especially the people that look like us and people of color. When you come across somebody that's, you feel like, hey man, they're in the same genre that I'm in, they're trying to do the same things I'm doing. Why don't we just combine forces? Yep. And let's make that push. You know what I mean? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you guys should partner in that way. You may be able to utilize each other's talents in another particular way where it doesn't involve you and them being in a particular business or a partnership. That's one. Another thing I learned is that listen to what people don't say.
Tell me, what do you mean by that?
It's not so much what they say, it's what they're not saying. Meaning, if they tell you, "Oh yeah, man, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this." Okay, so now I'm thinking, well, what can't you do? And how? And if the things that you can't do line up with what I can do, then maybe we have something we can go a step further. Right. But if you can't do it and then I can't do it, then it doesn't make sense for us to partner up in that particular manner.
Right.
So that's why I said also, and then also listen to people's mentality. If you shut the hell up long enough and listen, you'll figure out exactly who people really are. And and when they tell you they tell you what time it is, it's up to you to check your watch. So,
I like that remix on Maya Angelou's quote. When they tell you what time it is, it's time to check your watch. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean that's the game I learned from just OGs that I've been in the game with. And
people always tell you what time it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got to listen to your elders, man. You got to listen to the OGs out here because they've been through it and they've experienced it. And so if you're wise enough to listen to the pearls that they're trying to drop you, then you're gonna be far along in life, not just in your particular career, but in life period. So that's the thing I learned about just being able to know, okay, what do I have, what don't I have, and who complements me the best. And even now that even though I run and own my own company, I still have people in certain areas that I feel like are beneficial because I can't do those specific things. Not just because maybe I don't know it, but I may not have the time to do it. So, the arms are what the arms are going to do. The legs are what the legs are going to do. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, so forth. They all have their roles and responsibilities. And so that once they all function on one accord, then you can go ahead and move forward and be successful by moving forward. And that's when I look at a team of people that are around you. And a lot of times too, sometimes, people have their interests and exits. Sometimes people are there for a limited time, like the McGrid. You know what I mean? Sometimes some people can be there for 30 minutes. Some people could be there for 30 years. Yeah. It just depends on who it is and what the need that they need to fill is going to happen. And sometimes when they feel that need, it's like, okay, hey, thank you for coming. It's a lovely party and gifts for you, but I need to move on.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you really said a lot of things there. To quote the late great DMX, he said that you should trust people to be themselves. That's what he said, right? Trust people to be themselves, and you're not going to be disappointed. Like, I'm not bad. Trust people to be themselves. So that takes that takes some observation on your end to not project what you think people should be because that's what you are or that's what you expect. Don't do that. Like, just meet people. Just trust people to be themselves. Like, that was a deep line that I discovered that DMX had, and it's true. And it's been, that has helped me having that approach to life. And then second, have also, I think what I hear you saying is learn self-awareness, learn how you sometimes project things on the people that you shouldn't, things that, or how you do things or how you judge people prematurely based upon some bias you have, or or an area that you just naturally just inclined to think that way. I think you learn those things. Some of those things you just learn through experience. And then the goal is not to not make a mistake, because that's not possible. But the goal is don't make the same damn mistake.
And you got to move out here in these streets very carefully and very efficiently. I remember something that Rick Rose said. He said, I don't want to move fast. I'm going to move correctly. And that's so profound. And I really felt that in the city of my soul, because I was like, man, that is absolutely a pearl of wisdom that people need to abide by more so than they don't. Everybody's such in a rush because we're in a microwave society. If it's not finished in 15 minutes, oh, it's not for me. It's not of God. It's for me. It's going to be for me. That is, excuse the expression, that is BS.
You can say bullshit. We can cuss on the show if you
okay, well, that's exactly what that is. As my old baseball coach would say, that's horseshit. Because that's laziness. Listen, God will open up doors for you, but you have to do things for yourself. God helps those who help themselves.
Oh man, look, you gotta do the work. You gotta do the work.
And you gotta put in the work. I shared this with a colleague of mine, and I said, listen, if God told you that if you go on Crenshaw and Slauson, and then you go in this trash can, and there's in a brown paper bag, there's 50 grand in this brown paper sack, and it's in the trash can next to the Shell station, and you live, let's say, off the 105 freeway in Crenshaw, which is approximately from there, it's about 4 miles, let's say.
Yeah.
And you don't have a car, right? What are you going to do to get there? Are you going to sit there, well, God's going to give me a car, or I'm going to get a ride for somebody? No. If you know you need a 50 grand and you can get up in there, you're going to walk, bike ride, skateboard. I mean, whatever you feel like you need to do.
You're going to find a way.
Sneak on the back of the MTA on a 210. And hopefully the bus driver don't see you sneaking on in the back of the bus. You're going to do whatever it takes to get there, right? You're not going to say, well, I don't have a car, I don't have a bike, so maybe it ain't for me. No, you're going to do whatever it takes, right? So to apply that same attitude to what you want to do when it comes to certain things, as far as what you want to aspire to. And that's the same mentality and attitude you have to have. And I've learned over the course of time too, everybody doesn't have big visions. Everybody doesn't have a vision, period. And let alone,
I would say, let's break those down. Hardly anybody has a big vision. Still, very few people actually have a vision. Most people go through their life with no plan and just kind of just say, "Oh well, what's the next day going to happen?" It is what it is.
Man, it's some people that you know that have like this worker bee small market mentality. It's kind of disheartening because you always want. I know for me, the people that I know personally, I want more for them, right? But I also understand that you can't want more for somebody than they want for themselves.
I mean, it's part of, and I've seen this, Nick. Man, it's frustrating. I see it in very talented people too. They have a lot of talent, and but their personality is like, I have to have everything has to be in a row, planned, and that is the balance between what you just said earlier, right? It's about moving fast versus moving correctly. You have people that are on the extreme point that they don't move because these are hard workers, but like they get to the point where they just have to plan out everything and have to see every contingency and have to know that it's completely safe. It's never safe. It's like you just.
I mean, the moment you step off your porch, rather every day. I mean, you taking a gamble, right? Yep. I mean, I had to slow my ass down because I was moving at the speed of light.
Yeah, but see, that's your personality though, right? That's like, if you have the personality, like I tell people, you have my personality. Like I'll move in the
right.
And the problem will be that sometimes I'll move and then not necessarily, I'll jump and then just not even know how far I'm jumping down. But sometimes you need to know. But the other people, they just start looking over the cliff and say, well, how far is that distance? And if I exactly calculated, and then if you're one of those people, you need to jump. If you like us, you need to just maybe think a little bit before you do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I had to slow myself down because I was moving so fast, and I was kind of missing a few small things that I would have to go back.
That's still my weakness. I'm very clear.
I said,
like, I'm not an operator.
I was like, nah. I said, nah, I can't do that. And I had to get with somebody who can kind of navigate me through certain things and let me know, okay, bro, you need to slow down.
Yeah. Well, you need a good partner. This is where, even if you don't have a co-founder, this is where you need a good employee, teammate that's with you, that helps you, like you said, look out for your flaws. Like you and I are the same way. Like I'm not going to be the CFO or the detailed operator on everything. I will take the vision. I'll go out there, sell it. I'll make sure that the ships are running and everybody's on time. But doing like the micro operating and the manager is not your skill set. It's not my skill set. It sounds like it's not yours. And being honest about what you're not good at is the beginning of good leadership.
Well, plus we're creatives, right? Yeah, so exactly. Like most creatives, that's why you look at a lot of the creatives, like they needed other people up until a certain point. Like you look at the Jay-Z's and the Dr. Dre's of the world, they needed other people at the time. Like Dre needed, Easy, Suge Knight, and then even Jimmy Iovine to a certain extent.
Exactly.
But Dre was able to grow on his own. The same thing with Jay. Jay had.
But they had to learn it first. Your point is still well taken, right? I mean, Dre didn't get into it until I believe Eazy-E brought him into it either. So like it's like you got to know what you're not great at, and then you got to keep growing, right? I mean, like Dre there's still stuff. Dre is billionaire. There's still stuff Dre doesn't do. He just like at the end of the day. That's how you become a billionaire. You don't become a billionaire by doing all the damn work. You become a billionaire by learning how to scale yourself.
And the same thing with Jay-Z. Like Jay had to learn from Dame Dash, and then eventually, some other people along the way, and then he figured it out. Now he's one of the most powerful people in society. With that's Rock exactly Nation right. and everything else that he's the businesses that he's a part of, and his lovely wife Beyonce is a part of, and so. You just look at the maturation of people, and that to me is very inspiring. I've never, even people that have not been on the billionaire status, but just people I see sometimes, I'm like, man, I'm inspired. Like people I hear on the radio, like locally here in Los Angeles, I tell them all the time, dude, I'm inspired by what you're doing. There's homegrown radio with Chuck Dizzle and DJ Head. Like every time I see them out somewhere, I hear them, I'm inspired. Shout out to my homeboy, Chucky Walton, Chuck Walton, my man who does a lot of stuff. He's connected. Like that man is connected to the connected. Like this man is like, he is the connected guy. I mean, I'm inspired every time I see him move. He's a good brother, hardworking, motivating. And so people like that, I'm inspired by as well. So I look at everybody as a chapter, I should say, in a book when it comes to this thing called life. And what can I learn from it? What pearls of wisdom can I gain from it and add to my arsenal? Yeah,
that's great. All right, let's. I'd like to get to some lightning round questions before we wrap up.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So think about a time. Let's think about a time you failed and how that set you up later for success.
Okay, so time I failed. Let's see. The time I failed was I had lost out. What happened was I took some video. I was covering this team, and I wasn't supposed to, I guess, report on it. And I did. I didn't know because I got clearance from those who were in charge of me at that time, but the university didn't like it. And, I'm sending him like, hey, man, this is what I can do. If I get an opportunity to cover your team, like this is what I can do. Just trying to sell myself in a sense. Yeah. And it failed. It blew up in my face. And the person that told me at the company I was working with that I could do it, of course, they act like they had amnesia. And so I fell on the sword, and it ruined my relationship at that time with that particular university where I was banned for like a year and change. Like wow. I couldn't do no coverage. The station like got on me that I was working at, like they got on me about it, and I felt like 10 pounds of hot crap. Right. Wow. And I was like, and this was like, I think, I want to say like year 3 of my career doing this. And I was I was hurt. And I was like, damn, man, like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't, this is a very prestigious organization, so I can't be on the outs. And about a little after a year, I approached the gentleman that was as the PR person that was in charge of the university. And I just had a real conversation with him. And about, I would say maybe a month or 2 later, he said, okay, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to let you cover X amount of games. I'm going to pick the games that you can cover, and that's it. And I was like, was I happy about it? No, because I wanted to cover every single game.
Right.
But I learned, shut up, take the L,
Yeah.
learn from the L on how you got there. And so that doesn't happen to you again and on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So I went through that. I had to go through the bumps and bruises and pretty much eat shit for a couple of years until I was able to build that rapport and build that trust. And now, man, we're on great terms. You know, he looks out for me. Hey, man, how's everything going? We have conversations when we cross paths with each other. You know, he's looked out for me on several occasions.
And that makes sense. Like I would have done the same thing if I was him. I would, because you don't know, he didn't know your whole side, and he had to probably test it out and see. And he gave you another shot, and then once you proved that, he let you back in. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, I never got a chance to tell my side of the story. So that was the effed up part about it. Is I didn't even get the chance to tell my side of the story at the time.
Right. But he probably respected the fact that you didn't even throw that dude under the bus. And that's why it's that being long term.
Hey, man, that comes from the streets, man. You don't have to snitch.
Yeah.
Whatever your dirt is, it'll come out in the wash.
It always comes out. Yep. Truth always comes out. I mean,
I was fortunate. That's how I learned how to rebound from failure. And I said, okay, the next time I get a no, I'm just gonna flip it into a yes. How can I figure out to flip it to a yes? And that's what my mentality. It just made it stronger. So that was my failure at that time. And I didn't quit the business. I didn't walk away like, oh man, the hell with this, man. I ain't about to go through this crap.
Yeah, you answered that well. Like a lot of people, some people I have on this show usually give me some, not always, but a lot of times give me a bullshit answer. Like they say, they give you something else, right? It's like they'll tell you it's a failure. Like
if you're like, they read the script.
You're like,
so I was walking down the way and a bus splashed me on the way. I was going to do an interview, and it's like, what? You read that in the LA Times, man. If you don't knock it off.
I never had a failure like this is what happened, and it's something like he's like that don't really sound like a failure. Like it sound like just a minor hiccup. And maybe people don't have it, but I don't believe it, right? I think people in general are just afraid to be vulnerable. I tell people I failed a lot. I'm gonna fail again. My goal is to just make sure I learn from it, and people know that it wasn't intentional. Look, I failed. I've screwed things up, but hey, I got to pivot.
Hey, man. I failed my first company, as I mentioned earlier, with the colleague of mine that I was a business partner with. I mean, that was a failure. I mean, people don't look at like people that tell me, "Oh man, that wasn't a failure, man." I'm like, no, because it didn't develop into anything. Like, what did it develop into, right?
Yeah, I mean, it developed to learn. You learned from failures. But here's the thing:
right.
You learn more from failures, and there's actually a danger to becoming successful too fast because you believe your own hype, and then you create a bunch of bad habits that can really bring you down. And so there's some benefit. I mean, people don't like to hear this, but I can tell you from that, like by this point in my career, I believed I was going to be whatever governor or whatever. I've ran for mayor, even though I outraised my opponents. I didn't win that race. Came close in the run up. I ran for treasurer of the state of Ohio, and got 2 million votes. Outraised my opponent, but it's a state that is very Republican now, and I was a Democrat, and so still lost. And so
that's a red state.
Yeah, it is. But I went through this experience, and people tell you when you go through it, it's not fun. Like, but did I learn? Did I grow? Do I now have a lot more contacts than I ever had? Yes. Did people see how I performed in terms of how I carried myself, how I didn't, I wasn't dishonest? Did that help me? Did I help my long-term career and prospects? It absolutely did, right? So, I mean, it was not a fun experience in terms of failing. Like people tell me they love failing. Like I'll say, no, I didn't love failing, but I understand that those things taught me because I now see myself like, damn, I really didn't know anything about a lot of stuff I thought I did. Like I thought I knew how to run an operation. Like I thought, the first real kind of business I had was running for mayor. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be easy. Like I know how to raise money. I got this person I'm gonna hire. I like him. He seems cool. He was nice dude, but he didn't know what he was doing because he was too young. I hired him because I saw him as like me, and that's not a good reason to hire people. Like I see that now, right? They have to do some type of skill set or fill a void that you don't have, and they need to add to that. You don't need to hire people that are just like you. And I didn't know that coming right out, however long, 6, 7 years, I didn't know that. And so only going through these experiences taught me that. So I will say I am grateful for the experience because that's helped me become a better business person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, you can't be afraid of fail, but you can't be afraid of success. And I noticed that more people are afraid of success than they are failure because they're so accustomed to failing. And when you start having that type of energy around you, you're going to continue to fail. Like, it's nothing wrong. We all got emotions and we all have, decisions and disappointments and all that kind of stuff, right? But when you look at the overall totality of it, how can I get myself out of this? Because I don't want to stay here. Like, I don't want to stay on the 6th floor. I'm trying to get to the 80th floor and get outside and overlook the whole city. So how can I get to the 80th floor if the elevator ain't working? Right. And that's the thing that people.
So I want to ask you this. Sorry to interrupt your flow here. What do you think is the most important advice to get from the 6th floor to the 80th floor? What's the most essential thing you think that helps get people there?
Do whatever the hell you got to do it, and just because. And I'm just gonna be simple, man.
I want to be simple. Yeah,
it ain't.
Get out your own way. Execute.
And also too, what works for Rob ain't gonna work for Nick, and what works for Nick, and that may not necessarily work for Rob, right? Like, you got to go out there and just do what you need to do and get it done. Get to the finish line. No matter how you get to the finish line, swim, crawl, walk, bike ride, whatever you gotta do to get to the finish line. Yeah. Just get there.
I agree.
Whatever you got to do it, just get there. And I got the one thing I've been taught and I've learned, certain principles you're not going to be able to take with you the higher you go up, because it doesn't call for that.
Tell me more. Tell me more what you mean by that.
There's only a level of morality only goes so far, right?
Okay.
So let's say it's 80 floors. You're at the 50th floor. Well, last stop for morality, 50th floor. Now you can get off on the 50th floor, and if you're comfortable and fine with that, that's cool. Yeah. But don't complain about the next man that got to the 60th, 70th, and 80th floor, and now you mad or you upset because they're getting what they're getting. Don't worry about how they got there. They're getting what they sacrificed to get, whatever that is that they wanted to get, that they were comfortable in themselves to would be willing to sacrifice. That's what you're willing to sacrifice. And I tell that to even kids that I've spoken to in colleges and things like that. Listen, whatever it is you're willing to sacrifice, be bold enough to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you've done, because you made an agreement to yourself to sacrifice X, Y, and Z versus the next person over here that say, hey, I'm only going so far. After that, I'm not going past that limit. And it's not a bad thing. It's a personal thing.
There's no solutions, only trade-offs. There's a trade-off to everything in life. You want to go to the 50th floor, each floor has a different trade-off.
Listen, it's not going, as much as people like to say that, for example, it's not an all-Black world. This is a multicultural world.
No.
We want to have inclusion and economic inclusion as Black people and as Black media and Black businesses. But you also have to understand, you have to be able to network and get along with people of other cultures and other backgrounds. And if you're not able to do that, you're not going to create an all Black anything or all brown anything, or it's going to, because we don't have, in the society that we live in, we don't have the power and the resources to do that. Not wholeheartedly.
Not by ourselves. No. Not by, and nobody has done it by themselves.
No. I mean, as great as Oprah Winfrey and what she's accomplished, and hats off to her and what she's done. I mean, she's definitely the GOAT when it comes to this media world, because she took it by storm and she never looked back. The things that we see Michael Jordan, do, the things that we see, countless other people do in our culture, in our world. Ice Cube or Byron Allen or Earl Graves Jr. People like that. Yeah, they've done masterful things, and again, as I said earlier, inspiring things. Yeah. But they had to sacrifice something. They were willing to go the extra mile that maybe you or I or somebody else wasn't able to or willing to go to get the job done. So to me, it's a personal choice. It's like, what are you willing to do to get to the top?
I think it's a personal choice. The only thing I come in is there are two things that do matter. One that you can't control, so you can't worry about is timing. But I will say this: everybody's not going to be a billionaire, and I don't think that should be your goal. your goal should be to achieve your highest level of contribution that you can achieve. And perhaps that will be a billionaire. Perhaps that is you create a company that sells 2 million a year. Perhaps it's a company that does 200,000 a year. I believe everybody can achieve a level of achievement where they can have some power and they can have some freedom if they put some effort into it. And the second part to do that is I'll say this is a universal rule. You need a network, and you need to know how to intentionally network. And if you learn how to do those things, you'll have money and you'll create value for yourself. Like, to your point, a lot of my support, I've had a lot of supporters who don't agree with all of my politics, who are conservative as ever, but we connect, right? And I don't view them as like evil. I don't agree with them. I think some of their views are absolutely off the wall. And I've told them this to their face, and I've told them why they're wrong, but I also have respected them. And they fund things, and they help and they support. So I think it's also learning, as you said, really, that everybody that has, just because someone has a different political view, they come from a different background, don't let that ruin an opportunity for a relationship, because there's all types of opportunities. Like, and that's an experience that I've seen.
I think I draw the line when it comes to racism. When it comes to racism,
well, you racism. I draw the line there. I mean, you're gonna be racist.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's where I try. There's certain lines that I draw, but I get what you're saying in essence.
Yeah.
Hey, no.
But that is like, but how do you challenge that? Like, because I think almost everybody's racist. So like when I say racist, I'm like, so like, if it's like your conscience going away, like you hate Black people, yeah, I won't like you. But like, to say, like, to me, okay, someone that has some beliefs that are ignorant, I mean, most people do. And then even people that say that they're for us, if you look at how they practice, we can go to some of the biggest places in Silicon Valley. They all got Black Lives Matter statement. I want to talk to you about that, right? Because I know you called out people right during this. Let's talk about that. There's a whole bunch of people that got Black Lives Matter. We want to fight racism. We hear you. But then when you look back and you start looking at the pay records, you start looking at the board members. I mean, to me, so when you say racism, yeah, I hear you, but I'm like I don't even know how you measure that, because like it's like, well, so like,
I don't think everybody is racist. I think there are racist people in this society.
How do you define racism?
Racism is when you are trying to purposely hold someone back economically, politically, and otherwise, because of the color of their skin. Right.
See, I have a different.
And when you are in a position of power to do so, that is the key. Because that's why I've had conversations about, oh man, first of all, Black people cannot be racist. Number one, we don't have the economic, political,
I agree with that,
or power. Same thing. Now we can be prejudiced,
right? We
can have bigoted views. Same thing with Latino people. Same thing with whoever. We can have prejudice and bigoted viewpoints. Absolutely, because that's just the stereotypical.
I'm gonna challenge that statement too. Let me just do this real quick, because I think you're thinking of it a little bit too one-dimensional. Can we be racist against the greater society? No, but can we, and do we often contribute to racism? Absolutely. So, in terms of like hurting other people, hurting ourselves, being in the position where you're in a position.
But here's the thing. Let me interject on that point.
Go ahead.
That's not right. That's self-hatred that was taught to us by those who were in racist and political power.
I agree. But let me say
that's not racism. That's self-hatred, which is something totally different that was learned from those who practice racist behavior. But we as Black folks and people, we cannot be racist because we don't have, again, the economic and political power to stop. And we can't stop a whole nother race of people.
Yeah.
But those people that are in charge that don't look like us have for 300, 400 plus years.
Yeah. So I think where we're having our good discussion here, and I love this, is that we have different definitions of racism. So that's why I asked you what your definition of racism is and how you describe it. That I don't have a disagreement with how you described it, but how I describe it is that racism is a social construct used to exercise power, right? And so when a construct is there, it becomes the default. So when I talk about everybody has racist tendencies, it is our default thinking. And so unless we challenge ourselves, even Black people believe some of these things, even if it's subconscious, because it's so much a part of the default, and it's ingrained in the system. It's ingrained how people communicate because it's been there, as you said, for 300 or 400 years. And so to not actually be racist, because I think people, when they have this idea, they think of it's somebody strategic. They're strategic and they're specific, and there are people that are doing that, but they think they're conscious about what they're doing. And my discussion with you and with others is, I don't think most people are conscious of what they are doing. I think they believe that they are, but they're not. And they're following a construct that they don't even understand why it's there, but they just believe it and don't even understand why they believe it because it's been ingrained for such a long time. And that goes for us too. So that's why I say, like, but people can do that and not have any hatred for anybody. That's what I'm saying.
This is why I said prejudice comes in, because you talk about stereotypical natures or constructs or something that's been taught, that has been ingrained into whatever that group of people is. And that's where the prejudices come in, because we can look at, I remember there was an incident where, when Asian community started coming into the Black community here in LA, and we didn't understand the custom, right? I'm not saying a few things, not everybody, but we didn't understand the custom, why they would put the money on the counter instead of putting it back in my hand. Because in America, we like, yo, man, you don't want to touch me or something? What's wrong with you? You think the Black gonna rub off? No, but in their custom, the respect level is, hey, we put the money back on the table because they don't believe in PDA, right? Yeah. Public displays of,
it's culture. That's how they
do it. It's a culture thing. Yeah. But we don't understand the culture. Now we automatically, like you said, going back to the stereotypical, oh man, they racist because they don't like Black people.
Right.
It's not.
I still think it's different. Like I think it's like the system in general. I'm just talking about the default of how we're taught, and this is a deep conversation. I love it. Is that essentially that white people are here, and Black people are at the lowest level, and that's what is taught, and it's the construct that I work to challenge every single day.
Right.
And why I say I believe, again, this is just me, and I'm a nerd like this. So a great book, a great book. I don't know if you read a lot or if you listen. I do a lot of Audible. A great book for how the mind works is Thinking Fast and Slow.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, I highly recommend that book because it'll blow your mind once you go through things and understand that, well, damn, I actually make these mistakes too in how I frame and how I think. And so what I work to do is have empathy for everybody. It's not that I have no tolerance for somebody doing something racist, but I have empathy for understanding how that can happen and how we are all, because to me, we're when we talk about prejudice and racism in general, I almost think it's a distinction without a difference because it still has the same effect. What one will do is it will still keep people down because they have these beliefs and don't understand these beliefs because they're being reinforced. So I just want to make sure that, as we approach it, that we have an understanding of it. So that's all. I mean, we're talking about.
I hear you. I mean, my empathy, if you are not Black and you call me the N-word, and then I
that's
break
different.
But
they know. But here's the difference. Let me
empathy drops.
Right.
Not even so much that they call me, that's not even the N-word, but they use certain terminology.
Oh boy, or something like that. That stuff is okay. We agree there, right?
You know what I mean?
But most people know not to do that though. That's
no. They've gotten bolder in the last.
I'm sorry. You are right. You are right. You are right.
No.
Let me correct myself. Overt racism is definitely at its highest level here.
Right. Because brother, I can take you to Orange County.
But I also think there's danger in saying that is only racism, because
no, I didn't say that was only racism. I'm just saying. I'm just.
I know you did.
As far as you talk about empathy and knowing how to empathize or understand why certain things are, and I think oftentimes we are too empathetic and we are too passive to let things.
Well, I agree with being too passive.
Instead of just saying, "Look, man, no, we're not tolerating this." It's no different than how we refer to ourselves. And I say this as a Black person. I don't use the N-word anymore.
Yeah.
I have used it in times prior to, growing up because I was ignorant. I didn't have a knowledge of self. When I got older and I got into a knowledge of self, I realized I'm not the N word. And it's not a term of endearment because God himself has never referred to him. You go to any book, the Quran, the Bible, whatever book that you feel like you want to name, show me one passage. And this is the time when man wrote this, right? So they could have easily slipped that in, just like they try to slip the whole ham thing in. They could have easily slipped that in.
Yeah.
But that goes to show you, if God sees us as his sons or daughters or kings or queens or whatever, then that's why do we see ourselves as that? And why do we allow ourselves to be spoken to in that manner? Just like I told a couple of cousins of mine who were female, why y'all refer to each other as bitches? But then when a man call you that, you be wanting to fight.
Yeah.
But then if another woman calls you that, it's supposed to be cool. Where
we got a whole episode on that. That's funny.
I'm just as an example. I don't want to get off too often.
No. But I agree. Let me just, as we wrap up this point, I'll just say that I agree with not being passive about stuff. Empathetic to me is about understanding, and then sometimes you learn how to understand, so you learn how to beat them. And so, like, that's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
Right. So empathy is not. I'm not saying that I'm not saying I'm not responding. Right. Like, I'm understanding how a person gets there. But as I finally close this point, then I want to go on our last points here, is that people generally, right, will say will understand that someone calls you if someone calls you a boy, someone calls you the N-word, someone puts a cross and burns it up on your lawn. See, that is violent, overt, aggressive action and racism. Like, that's what that is. But there are all different levels, and there are microaggressions that I would argue are more harmful, because people believe, it's the people that believe that, oh, I'm a good person. I'm gonna give you this example from a Ta-Nehisi Coates book. He said, back in, I don't know, 1955, 60, I don't know the year exactly. It was a small Pennsylvania town. And they wrote a letter to the government arguing against Black people coming into their town. And this is what they said, Nick. Let's just hear me out here. They said, listen, government, we are good Christian going people. And, we don't want any harm. We just don't want any Black people in our neighborhood. Pause. Right. They don't see, they wrote out this letter, in this same letter, they couldn't put it together that, like, okay, we don't necessarily want to do anything aggressive against Black people. We just don't want them in our neighborhood. So, like, they thought that what they were saying is okay. Now, people nowadays, some people would say that, but there are all types of in-betweens where people believe, well, as long as I haven't said anything or I haven't called you the N-word, then I can't have any racism in me. So why are you mad at me? That's the danger that I had. So that's the reason why I have a bigger definition, and think people need to say, okay, listen, unless you work at it, you're going to be racist, is what I tell people, because it's true. Like, unless you're going to work against your prejudice, you're going to do things subconsciously, and you're going to do it just because it's the natural default. So that's really the point I was trying to make in that. And
I hear you. I mean, there's a book I always would suggest. It's by Kwame Ture, better known as Stokely Carmichael, or formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, and Charles Hamilton, where they talk about intellectualizing the integration of society, and how if you don't study institutionalized racism, you will truly overlook racism.
Yeah,
itself.
exactly.
And I'm paraphrasing, but that's overall.
That's my point.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So I understand it.
Yeah.
But I don't.
This is a good discussion. Like, we didn't have to agree exactly on definition.
No.
It has some good. It brought us some really good points. It was.
And that's why I said I don't label everybody as that, because the thing about it is, there are some people out there that are willing to help and do what they need to do. You just have to realize where the help comes from, why they're helping, and then get the help that you need to move on to the next level.
And it is, but this is another point of this. This is like, there are good, and that's why I don't draw the line between good people and bad people. Like, the environment you're in and the situations that you find yourself in, you will find yourself doing things. Like, one case in point that I always use is Nazi Germany. Right? I'm always careful when I use this, but I'm very specific. I'm saying there are people in Nazi Germany that outside of that situation would not have gone along with everything, right? They wouldn't have, but they were in a situation, and if you get to the situation, like, if you're around an environment enough, the science shows that people that you're around literally rewire your brain. So you think that you can challenge the beliefs of people around you, and some can, but it's a lot harder to do than most people would have you believe. And you end up going with what the tribe does, and you just don't even see or choose to ignore the injustices and don't even realize that you're doing it. So all I'm trying to say is that, like, it's you have to work to be that person every single day. That's what I'm trying to say. We have to work as Black people to reject all of the poison that's been put in the water and that's been passed down from generation to generation. I was just telling my mom the other day, like, one of these statements people say all the time is, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. I'm like, no, I want to work twice as hard and I expect twice as much.
Right.
I'm getting rid of
because like you said earlier, it's value, and we have seen value in ourselves. We've seen value in what we do, and this is why we're able to get the opportunities that we've been able to get, not just because somebody was throwing us a bone, because we earned that. And that's why I always stress, dude, I earned everything that I got in this industry. Yes, people have come along to help me from various backgrounds, gender, that's orientation, whatever. But I earned it, because if I wasn't as dogmatic and as aggressive and as focused as I was, they would have never been able to see it to say, maybe I could try to help this dude to get wherever he needs to get to. They wouldn't have seen it because I wouldn't have been able to put in the work.
It's a dog mentality.
Absolutely.
It's the dog mentality, bro. All right. Final two questions. This one will be a lot quicker. A committee of three, who living or dead, that advises you on life, business, personal. Tell me who these three people are and why. It can be parents, it can be mentors, it can be historical figures. Who are these three people and why?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would have to say, let's see. One, definitely, God rest his soul, was a mentor and a friend of mine, Eric Wade, who actually got me into this business.
Okay.
He was a photographer. He had been shooting sports many, many years prior. And we met through a mutual friend. And he kind of just took me under his wing and said, look, man, I don't have the world, but the continent that I do have, I'll let you be a part of it, and I'll show you the ropes. And he did that. I mean, he was true to his word. Great guy overall, as I got to know him over the course of time before his untimely passing. And he was just he used to give me a piece of advice, and it still reigns with me to this day. And he says, always stay connected. That was always his saying, always stay connected. So that's one person. Second person being my mom, just because I see the hard work that she does and the dedication that she does, and the heart that she has that I don't necessarily have all the time.
Right.
Because I'm, being in society, I'm a little jaded. So I don't have that heart like that. I used to. But it's slowly growing back. But just her dedication, her focus. The third person, I would just say it's a plethora of people up close and from afar in this industry that have helped me along the way, that have shared advice with me, showed me stuff, embraced me. There's way too many people to name. So I'll just say that group of people for the third.
Okay.
That have really, really had what's the word I'm looking for?
Impact.
Really just had it just had a significant impact in my life, and still do.
All right. An important conviction you have or truth that most people would disagree with you on?
Most people would disagree with me on.
It's a hard question. I love to ask it though.
That I'm not sitting on a $500 million company. It just hasn't come to fruition yet.
All right. I love that. All right. Final question. You have what's a slogan or a billboard that stands for your life? What does that say and why?
A slogan or billboard. I think I said it earlier. When people show you what time it is, check your watch.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. So, Nick Hamilton, Nitecast Media, brother, it's been a pleasure. We had some fire conversation, man. I can't wait to get this up and get this out.
Hey man, you know what? I can't wait either. I appreciate you. Congratulations on all your success as well, man. Thank you again for having me on your platform. I greatly appreciate it. For those who may be interested, find me at nitecastmedia.com, Instagram at Nick Hamilton LA, and on Twitter at Nick Hamilton 213. YouTube channel is youtube.com/NH Experience TV. We have all kind of interviews from the sports world, the entertainment world, politics, pop culture, tech. We got some great interviews up there, so make sure you check them out, subscribe. And we got more content coming. As Rob and I were talking earlier, man, we have so much content. I could put it out every day for 3 weeks.
All right, Nick, great to have you on.
Thanks, Rob.